Hello again. Chris Lee at Southeastern 16 here to talk Missouri football heading into the Alabama game. And when we talk Missouri, we go to my good buddy Gabe DeArmond of PowerMizzou.com. Gabe, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you, Chris. What's going on, man?
A lot going on across the SEC landscape, and in Missouri, kind of quietly sitting there with one loss. And I know that Missouri fans probably disappointed they're not unbeaten at this point, but the schedule's been maybe a little tougher than we thought, and just winning anywhere against anybody these days can't be underrated. I don't think it's I get that the A&M loss was ugly, but it feels like this is a team that still got a lot to play for.
Yeah, the SEC almost seems like an NFL light to me at this point, right? I mean, just win games, and if you win enough of them, you're going to be in good shape at the end of the year and get a shot. I think Missouri has been a little underwhelming this year because their wins have been tougher than people thought, and like you said, the loss was so bad. It's kind of an anchor, right? Missouri has a little bit of a perception problem right now, and they go to Alabama, and really this is their only real chance to turn that around because of who else they play the rest of the season.
Yeah. Brady Cook, that was an all-timer. That's going to be one that when you're, when people are talking about Missouri football 20 or 30 years from now, that game is going to come up. Just talk about how remarkable that was and just whatever that added to his legacy.
Well, it was, I mean, the funny thing is, and not funny, but ironic, I guess, the first 5 weeks of the season, Missouri fans have been not very happy with Brady. I mean, he hasn't played as well this year as he did last year. And there weren't a lot, but there was some, let's see what Drew Pine can do, because we're not going anywhere with this. Right. And so Brady got hurt on, I think it was the 4th play of the game. Might have been the 6th play of the game, somewhere in there. But he quite clearly came up limping. And like you could immediately see, oh, something's wrong. We stayed in there for 4 plays after that. Actually managed to hang in and complete a 3rd and 10 pass for a first down. But then the very next play was kind of trying to elude pressure and just went down untouched, and you said, oh, this can't continue. That's when they brought him off. And so the way it works in Missouri, like we don't get injury updates in the press box. We find out from the TV or the radio reporters. And so I had people texting me like, hey, they're saying on the broadcast he's getting his ankle retaped and he's going to try to come back in. So I said, okay, well, after about 35 minutes, I said, that doesn't fly anymore. Like if all he's doing is getting an ankle retaped, he'd already be out here. And then obviously we find out after the game that he went to the hospital, and Missouri put out their highlight reel of the week. And like they spliced security footage camera from University Hospital of Brady Cook limping into the hospital and limping out of the hospital into their highlight reel. And so it's late 3rd quarter and he comes out of the tunnel. And I'm not joking when I tell you, Chris, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon coming out of the tunnel. and he gets back on the field. I mean, he is on the sideline, literally jumping up and down, gets on the field, and we all immediately said, wait, he looks better than he did against Vanderbilt. Like, not better than he did in the first quarter. This is the healthiest he's looked all season through, the marvels of modern medicine, right? Managed to get him back out there. And I mean, the quotes, we always say in this business, right? You don't root for outcomes, you root for people, and you root for stories. Yep. And man, was that a story. I mean, the quotes from that post-game press conference, of Brady telling the team, like, I have 2.5 games left to play here, and I'm not missing this one in the hospital. And Eli Drinkwitz was, I don't think you can, I would like to give Eli Drinkwitz enough credit to say, I don't think you can fake the emotion that he had, when he said, hey, for all the criticism he takes, that kid would die on this field, and like what fans always seem to want is a kid that cares about their school as much as they care about their school. And frankly, most of them don't. For most of them, it's a place to play, and they may grow fond of it, but they didn't come here because they grew up loving Missouri like these fans did, right? Well, Brady Cook did, And he showed that on Saturday. And it was just, obviously it'll be a much cooler story if it leads somewhere big for Missouri. But even if not, 20 years down the road, when Brady's telling his kids about playing college football, like, I've got to imagine that's the first day he tells them about.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such an anomaly. You look at what happened yesterday out of Louisville. They have a receiver that just decides, I'm going to sit out the rest of the season, and maybe I'll come back for a sixth year next year if the price is right. Is how I mean, it is. I think the things that he does, I've always liked him from afar. I mean, you never know what anybody's like, but you get a sense that he's a kid that's kind of worth rooting for, and to see him do what he did in the day and age where that is completely going against the current, I do think is going to add to his long-term story.
Oh, I mean, the fan perception of him has changed so much in 7 days, right? To, okay, whatever happens the rest of the year, like, no more bad words about this kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I mean, in the end, Brady Cook's biggest sin might end up being he's just not quite as good as people want him to be, right? Like, he's not an
Yeah.
elite NFL draft pick quarterback, but that's okay. I mean, all you can ask out of a kid is, hey, give me everything you've got. And there is no longer any fan of college football who doubts whether Brady Cook does that.
I want to sort of unpack this season in the context of last season, Gabe. I'm going back and looking at the schedule. I remember watching Missouri in September 2 years ago, and there was nothing remarkable about them. I mean, they beat South Dakota. They barely get by MTSU. They beat Memphis by a touchdown. They get one in between against Kansas State, but it's a field goal game. They beat Vandy in the year that everybody was beating Vandy, and then they lose to LSU October 7th. From that point on, it was a different season. They lose one the rest of the way. It's a 9-point game to Georgia. Is there a chance that we've got a little bit of a repeat setting up? Because at this time a year ago, I don't know that anybody was really taking Missouri super seriously, and they got on a heater ended the season. They've got kids that have done it before. Are we sleeping on a repeat here?
That's what they hope. And, immediately after the game, I kind of wrote, like, this is the possibility. And Brady Cook brought it up in his press conference. He said, this was the moment that this team hasn't had, right? Like, it wasn't that you beat Auburn. Auburn's not very good. It was the way you beat Auburn. Last year, they beat Kansas State in week 3 on a 61-yard field goal. And that team started to really believe. And yeah, they had the setback against LSU, but Jaden Daniels put on an all-time performance and he beat them, right? But then they went to Kentucky and they were down 14-0, and a fake punt flips that game and they outscored Kentucky 38-7 the rest of the way. They pick up 4th and 17 to beat Florida. I mean, it was just a team that believed every time it took the field, it would find a way. And other than the game in Athens, Georgia, it did. So that's what they hope this kind of unlocks in this team, right? Is, hey, all of a sudden they're 7-0 in one-score games the last 2 seasons, which Eli Drinkwitz did admit. He said that's a little misleading because LSU and Georgia were one-score games until we turned the ball over in the last 5 minutes, and then they became not one-score games that we lost. Yeah. But still, they're very good in close games. The caveat here is, they're doing it with a one-legged quarterback that we're not sure is going to play going to Alabama on Saturday. And that kind of changes the calculus of what you think might be available to him the rest of the year.
Yeah. It's been a weird offense. Luther Burden has not put up the video game numbers I think we thought he put up. No, he's been really good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not taken over games the way that we thought. What's going on there?
Well, honestly, he hasn't gotten a chance. I mean, Boston College, he didn't touch the ball till like Missouri's 22nd or 23rd snap. Last week, he didn't touch the ball till inside of 2 minutes in the first half with a backup quarterback in the game. And you watch it and go, look, you're watching Auburn put Jarquez Hunter at Wildcat. Just do that.
Yeah.
Or hand it off to him or throw a bubble screen to him. Like, find a way to get the ball in this kid's hands. I will say this about him. When Missouri has had to have a play, it's been him, right? Overtime against Vanderbilt. He just destroys a defensive back, gets open for a touchdown that ultimately, ties the game. last week against Auburn, 3rd and 17, Brady Cook goes for 12 yards to Luther Burden. And then on 4th and 5, Burden gets as open as I think you can possibly get on his shorter route as he ran. And Cook hits him for the first down. So when it's come down to do or die, this football team needs a play. Brady Cook and Luther Burden have combined to make that play. But yeah, we started this season talking about Biletnikoff, Heisman. Now, I don't even know if anybody's really talking about Luther for all SEC, to be honest. And that's fair. Like, he's not having that kind of year. He's not even Missouri's leading receiver right now.
I want to ask you a question about the running game and the way carries will get split going forward. Before I do that, reminder, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games, with the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Nate Noel, I was super impressed with him against Vanderbilt a couple of games back. He ran for, I think, $1.99. I think there's maybe a health issue there, but I've been surprised to see that he's been splitting carries with Marcus Carroll since then. Is that just a health thing?
Yeah, so the UMass game, he was a game time decision and didn't play due to back tightness. Then last week he played. First half, he had 5 carries for 26 yards. We were told he's unlikely to return with the lower body injury. He had 1 carry for 6 yards in the second half. And Drinkwitz said after the game, he hurt his foot. We don't know the severity of it. Pete Thamel, who I jokingly refer to as Missouri's injury correspondent, tweeted earlier this week that Nate Noel was not going to play, that he was out for the Alabama game. In the last 24 hours, we've had people tell us, no determination has been made. And then just Thursday morning, right before we're recording this, we had somebody tell us, hey, it looks like he's going to give it a go this weekend, but he is banged up. Marcus Carroll obviously has gotten the bulk of the carries the last 2 weeks. You got a freshman named Kewan Lacy who's gotten some carries. It's interesting. He's played 4 games. So if he plays another one, the red shirt's gone, which I don't personally think much matters in this day and age of college football. If you redshirt somebody, all you're doing is giving them an extra year of eligibility somewhere else eventually. And then they've got a kid, a sophomore named Jamal Roberts, who frankly hadn't really had a consequential carry all year. And then the last 2 plays of the Auburn game were Jamal Roberts, 2 carries for 9 yards and the game-winning touchdown. So Noel has obviously been very good. He's got a gear that I'm not sure the other guys have right now. But also, like, I don't know, it's a replaceable position, right? Marcus Carroll's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's got a team high 6 touchdowns. Like, I think they can survive that, obviously much more easily than they can survive a quarterback injury.
The matchup with Alabama defensively, because I think offense is where Alabama scares you. It's very, very explosive. I don't know if this is a valid – Vanderbilt is such a wild card. I say it's like facing a knuckleball pitcher. Is there anything we can learn with the way Missouri beat Vanderbilt despite having Diego Pavia? But I felt like Missouri held him in check more than a lot of teams did. Is there any translation to that in defending Jalen Milroe?
Well, I just think it's different because Diego Pavia is just a chaos player, right? Like, he's got the Mahomes thing of he's actually better once the play goes to pot. It's not anything like he doesn't really scare you in stride. Not that he's bad, but he doesn't scare you in.
But he's not athletic like Jalen Milroe is.
Right. But there's a lot of talk out of Tuscaloosa that Milroe's hurt. He hasn't really run it all that well in the last few games. He's had a couple turnovers in the last few games. The interesting thing when Bama has the ball is, like you said, it's the explosiveness, right? The big plays. Well, Missouri is actually allowing the second fewest big plays in all of college football on defense. Now, the thing is, when they allow a big play, boy, it goes the distance. I mean, they've allowed like 4 or 5 touchdowns of over 50 yards this year, but those are the only explosive plays they've allowed, right? So and it's just so dependent on Brady Cook's health and what the Missouri offense can do, because this is a vulnerable. This is not the Alabama defense we're used to. Like,
Yeah.
statistically, they're middle of the road or worse in almost everything, right? They're not very good against the run. They're not very good against the pass, and they don't force a lot of turnovers. So if you have a relatively healthy Brady Cook and that offense can move the ball and you can get into the mid-20s or something like that, you feel okay. If you've got an offense that's so limited that you're trying to beat this Alabama team 17-13, I'm not sure that's possible.
Yeah. I'll tell you a path I think they have that's probably not getting talked about a lot is discipline and just keeping your cool, because Alabama has just been drawing penalties left and right.
Yeah.
Did it in Knoxville last week. Of course, it's a little different. They're at home this week, and I think some of those penalties were crowd induced. But it is a team that you see lose discipline. Now, I think Missouri, penalty wise, they're just under 50 yards a game. Now, I've seen times when there was the drive where Luther Burden lost his mind and drew a couple of personal fouls. So you've seen it in spots, but is that a place where they can maybe get a little bit of an advantage, you think?
Yeah, penalties were a big problem the first 3-4 weeks of the season and really haven't been the last couple. They had 2 penalties last week against Auburn, which was one of the biggest improvements. I think that's possible. I think Missouri's biggest, and I don't want to call it an advantage because this makes it sound like Alabama's not good at this, and that's not what I'm saying. But Missouri they've turned into a tough football team, I think, which I mean, understand the last time we saw them on the road in the SEC, they looked like anything but a tough football team, right? They looked like a team that wasn't interested in a fight at Texas A&M. They were very interested in a fight last week and seemed to maybe have a little bit of a gene of, hey, we don't think we're out of a game. I think that can be big when you go to Alabama. Now, I don't think you want to go down there and fall down 14-0 and test it out, right?
Yeah.
But I think they have these memories from the last 2 years that they can kind of bank on to say, hey guys, like you said, there's a lot of guys on this team who have done things like this before.
Yeah. Is it just me, or does 16.5 feel like a lot of points for Alabama to cover against Missouri?
It does, except again, like, we don't even know at this point if Brady Cook's playing. Like, I think you will have to chop his leg off and steal his helmet for him not to try to play. But that does not mean that he is him, right? I mean, I
Right.
asked Drinkwitz on Tuesday, I said, if that's a road game, can you get Brady back in the game? And he just said no. He said, we wouldn't have a hospital across the road that we could
Wow.
drive him to and get the MRI done. And I mean, when they walked in that hospital, that was, hey, this is the starting quarterback. Anybody that's not dying is about to be in line behind him. I doubt Tuscaloosa General will be as generous to Brady Cook if that happens again. So, and whatever he got, let's just say maybe injected into his ankle, probably won't be as effective next weekend as it was this weekend. So I think that line, I mean, when Thamel tweeted that Brady Cook was doubtful, that line went up 3 points, like within 20 minutes. It was Alabama 13.5 and it went to Alabama 16.5. The Missouri injury report to me, frankly, was hilarious on Wednesday night. Like, they had half their starters listed as questionable, doubtful. And people on our board were saying, well, can you list a kid as out and then he plays? I said, you can do anything you want. These injury reports are only as honest as the people filing them, which is, if you're relying on them to gamble, God love you. I wouldn't, I just kind of chuckled when I saw that report, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, we've seen some crazy things with injuries. Like we've seen guys get well in a matter of seconds on the field, or go from perfectly healthy to not well in the course of a couple of seconds before snap. I mean, it's a crazy world medically.
Why wouldn't you, if you're filling one of those out? Why wouldn't you just kind of go Lane Kiffin, but extreme? Like, this guy got tackled last week. He's questionable. We're just we're all day to day, not sure he's going to be able to go.
The thing I'm dying for is for when a guy does the feigning goat thing, during the middle of a play or before just for an official not to see it,
right,
and see how quickly do the miraculous healing powers kick in?
Right. Does he just get up and sprint down the field and make the play
Right,
anyway?
right,
Are we
right.
turning into soccer here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a rule against it, is there? That is anything in the official's manual that says he has to see everything? I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where. All right, serious question on the way out. Give me the path to victory if Missouri wins this game. Give me the path to victory if Alabama wins the game.
I mean, the path to victory for Missouri is, I think, quite a bit narrower, obviously. I think it requires a Brady Cook that is healthy enough to be a concern for Alabama. The Missouri receiving core that touted itself as potentially the best in the country this spring actually looks like it could be one of the best in the country. And the defense forces Jalen Milroe to make at least two fairly significant mistakes.
Yeah.
If Alabama wins the game, I think it's just, hey, they play relatively well. And with a banged up quarterback, Missouri's not good at, like, there's a lot of different ways Alabama can win this game. There aren't all that many ways Missouri can win this game.
Gabe, you guys are the best in the business at covering Missouri. Tell the folks out there how they get your content.
Yeah, just powermizzou.com. Earlier this beginning of this month, we moved over to the 24/7 network, so you can find us over there all week long. I think my guy is landing in Birmingham about 11:45 Friday night, so it's going to be a quick turnaround in Tuscaloosa
Wow.
this weekend. But I don't know if the last time you've tried to book travel for a game in Alabama, Chris. There are not a lot of affordable options.
Yeah, I'm a little closer than you are, so that's a little
Right.
easier. But
Yeah, we're
God
here on
help,
the
Columbia
outskirts.
to Missouri, Columbia to Tuscaloosa feels like a task.
Hey, but you know, the only bonus is it's one of the few places we go that you don't have to go through Hartsfield Jackson. So
There's that. Well, good luck to you guys on getting there. I know you guys will have it covered, win or lose later, and I'm sure we'll find occasion to talk to you again later. This hey, basketball season's coming, so we got to have the Dennis Gates conversation at some point.
yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation. Absolutely, nobody knows what to expect here. I got no
Yeah.
idea. They have an exhibition game on Saturday. I guess we'll start to see.
Somewhere my co-host Blake Lovell is chomping at the bit to talk about his client Dennis Gates. That's the running joke around here. So looking forward to that. But Gabe, seriously, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you again soon.
All right, Chris, appreciate you.
All right, we're your home for SEC football, baseball, and basketball coverage. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Caroline.smith at Southeastern14.com for advertising inquiries. I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by Bet Online.